roughly $80 trillion in assets being inherited by millennials and Gen Z from boomers and the silent generation. And not everyone has taste, good or bad. And that's okay.
Do you think this is a long-term strategy for them? You said this in one of your articles, from a $300 a night room to a $10,000 a night room. You can call them both luxury stays.
You cannot get away with charging prices that are not aligned with the value that you bring. It is an overall long-term strategy. One members club that I think is just phenomenal, and I'm biased because I'm also a member. One thing that maybe my readers know or could tell about me, but I don't say explicitly, is that I love beauty. I think beauty drives the world.
But it's actually a huge driver for humans.
I'm going to say something that may make people feel uncomfortable.
Something is shifting in luxury. Clients are collecting experiences and transformation more than objects. Nearly 80% of the world's wealthiest individuals would rather invest in experiences than products. Hospitality is becoming the new emotional laboratory where innovation meets intimacy and where meaning defines experience. Throughout the years, we've been watching LVMH build out Cheval Blanc and acquire Belmont, Armani Bulgari opening hotels and portfolios across continents, and Fendi is jumping into hospitality. The capital flowing into this space is enormous and accelerating, but at the same time, a question keeps coming back. Where is the soul? We walk into properties in Milan and Paris and New York and Doha, Shanghai, and you can't tell the difference. This goes well beyond interiors. This is about culture, capital, taste, and who gets to decide what travel actually means for the next decade. I'm Carlota Rodben, your host and founder of Beyond Luxury, a strategic advisory and media platform guiding top leaders and brands on the future of luxury and beyond. My guest today is an investor architect of modern hospitality. Nadine Choe is the voice behind the Stanza, one of the top hospitality media platforms where capital meets culture. Before she became one of the industry's most influential critics, she was underwriting $1 billion hospitality real estate development projects, including the Aman Beverly Hills and the One. She understands the cold math of real estate and capital stacks and air rights, but she walked away to build a media empire based on taste as strategic advantage. Now, based in Milan, she dissects the industry with the precision that most would not dare. We're talking about why modern hotels feel like they've lost their soul, how the biggest luxury groups are betting their whole future on hospitality, and why the future of travel belongs to the operators who treat taste as a line on the P&L. Before we begin, if you're enjoying what we're building here, please follow, subscribe, and leave a comment. That is what allows us to keep doing what we do and have the conversations that usually stay behind closed doors. Whether you're a leader in the industry, aspiring to become one, or simply someone who wants to understand where the industry is heading next, this is for you. Nadine, thank you so much for being here today. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me, Carlota. I love what you're doing, and I'm really excited to be here.
Incredible. You have been in the back of so many hospitality development deals and real estate deals in the past. And now you've really become one of the key critic and strategic voices of where the hospitality and travel luxury industry is going. And I've been reading equally just as admirable what you've been doing. And I've been reading the Stanza for quite a while now. And I would love to know, what has shaped this view on the way that you see luxury and the way you analyze hospitality in specific?
Well, as you mentioned, I did have a past career in real estate development and private equity, and obviously that shapes a lot of my fundamental knowledge. But much like you, Carlota, I've also lived in different places all over the world, and I've been really fortunate to have access to culture and the privilege to even have developed or been able to develop my personal taste, and I've been able to travel a lot, and so experiencing things firsthand obviously has a huge impact. And the other thing is one thing that maybe my readers know or could tell about me, but I don't say explicitly, is that I love beauty. I think beauty drives the world, and being in an environment surrounded by beauty is what truly makes me thrive. And I also love good food and just like all the pleasures that come with the business of hospitality. So that's where my personal taste slash my perspective comes from.
Such a good point of the aesthetic and the beauty of things in life, because sometimes I think they're confused by something that is maybe superficial, but it's actually a huge driver for humans, right? And this is why also when we go to nature, we feel so at peace and at ease. Like there is something about the beauty of nature that makes us kind of just our nervous system calm. And I think that's maybe something that you're describing there.
Yeah.
I think going into what's happening today in the hospitality industry, and being surrounded by these beautiful things and places, we see a lot of these big maisons today pivoting into, and it's been recently, but also, you know, I think like maybe if we go the past 10 years, we've started seeing investments, big investments by these huge maisons. We could see like Cheval Blanc and the Belmont acquisition and a lot of other different things like Fendi Armani getting into the hospitality space. What do you see right now happening in luxury, the traditional luxury, you know, like LVMH, Richemont, and all of these groups, and their relationship with hospitality and why they're really looking into this?
It's a very pertinent question right now. And to answer that, I think you have to understand also the context. So luxury goods went through a massive growth spurt because of the growth of the middle class in China. So when you look at a lot of these huge luxury maisons, they really became multi-billion-dollar businesses because they had this incredible opportunity to grow abroad. Now, what happened in recent years, and the reason why you're seeing this explosion in hospitality now is because obviously during the pandemic, people were locked up and they couldn't travel or, you know, dine out or experience life in the way that they're used to. And then, you know, obviously after the restrictions have lifted, everyone is revenge traveling. At the same time, interest rates were at an all-time low to prevent the economy from, you know, sinking into an iceberg, so to speak. And so money wasn't real in 2021, 2022. The cost of capital was really low. And, you know, obviously when that happens and you have the perfect storm, so to speak, and, you know, people are overexposed to luxury goods, they're sick of being at home. And, you know, they've never had more of an incentive to travel abroad and experience these beautiful hotels and places. That creates a perfect storm for hospitality operators, these groups, to raise their prices. ADRs have, which is the average daily rate in the hotel world, ADRs have doubled or even tripled in many markets that were never even once popular destinations. And so when you have that happening and you have these hotel groups, these luxury hotel groups that are quite frankly, you know, they're making a lot of money, luxury maisons that are now suffering with their luxury goods businesses see that as a massive opportunity. And so that's why I believe that we're seeing what we're seeing now.
And do you think this is a long-term strategy for them?
Well, the other part of this is that one of the biggest macro themes that is underway right now is the great wealth transfer. And that's roughly $80 trillion in assets being inherited by millennials and Gen Z from boomers and the silent generation. And it's known that this generation, our generation, values experiences over things. 100%. You know, I think you and I very well know that people love to shop vintage or secondhand. They'll buy that vintage Hermes Birkin, but then, you know, splurge on this like incredible trip to this like incredible bucket list hotel. And that's a behavior that is more unique to the younger generation.
Looking at Gen Z, and even let's push it to Gen Alpha, right? Just the younger generation, and the way that they see A, spending, B, saving, C, investing in these either assets or memories. I think that we've gone really from collecting things to collecting experiences, memories, and emotions. What do you see them really focusing on when they're looking at hospitality, travel, and just spaces to be in and to have this either third or fourth space outside of their work and what they're doing with their friends?
There was this stat, I have to fact check it, or I have to look it up and share with you the exact number later, but there was this crazy stat that American Gen Z travel abroad or take more trips abroad than any other generation, and they do it for leisure.
Wow.
And that's a really interesting data point. And I think that does speak to, like, you and I are technically millennials.
Yes.
And we are kind of like the start of the, like the Instagram travel and like the travel trends, etc. But I mean, Gen Z, they literally grew up in that period. And they came of age at post-COVID when all of these patterns were emerging, right? And so I think, when you have that generation inheriting all this wealth and they value these experiences over possessions like bags and leather goods and fashion, etc., then obviously the opportunity logically for hospitality operators is that, whoa, this market is huge. And so I do think that it is an overall long-term strategy for sure. There's like the desire to travel and experience things with people that you love is never going away. It's been since the beginning of time, right? But the way that these groups go about that strategy is going to be absolutely critical, because when you have people making a lot of money, you attract a lot of new entrants. And when you have new entrants, you have a lot of competition, and they're all competing for essentially the same dollars or the same euros or wherever.
100%. And I think that today, one, the wealth transfer you mentioned, and two, there's Gen Zs and alphas that are, before getting into college, making millions.
Yes,
exactly. On YouTube and doing things, and they've really found different avenues for themselves that I think that they just need to do something with it, and they're choosing what to spend it on and what to live with, and you see very different consumption patterns today, and it's interesting to see that they're really like pushing on experiences with friends and family and loved ones.
Yes,
I think that to look today at like luxury experiences and luxury travel, it's kind of, and you mentioned this so much in your writing, it's kind of meaningless now. Like, right, what does that even mean? Today you have, like, I think you said this in one of your articles, from a $300 a night room to a $10,000 a night room, you can call them both luxury stays. So what does, in your perspective, you've been analyzing this so long and you write about this all the time, what do you see with your clients and with what you're writing, with your researching? What really is luxury experiences? How does one actually define that?
It's a great question. I think the word luxury, as it pertains to hotels or even just experiences, whether it's restaurants or members clubs, etc., it's been thrown around to basically signal to the end customer that this is an elevated experience. So I'll just take an example that everyone who's listening will understand, but Soho House, for example. Soho House tries to position itself as luxury. The general public thinks of it as luxury. Just because something has a design philosophy does not mean it's luxury. Luxury, when in the true essence of hospitality, I think the one of the key fil rouge is that it removes the need to make decisions and the need to spend time. So it like removes a lot of that friction. I think like that's an underlying trait between all the best hospitality operators. Like when you go stay at an ultra luxury hotel, they will unpack your bag for you. They know your preferences. They don't need to impress you with things like beautiful furniture or food, because it's like that's good design and good food is already a given. You're paying 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 euros a night. You have to have those things, right? And so now I think people, because everyone is so obsessed with hospitality, they automatically bucket anything that is Instagram worthy or like, that photographs well. Everyone is categorizing that as luxury. But the problem is nowadays, that's the baseline. If you don't have some sort of design voice or some sort of design language, you get lost in the sauce because, as I was mentioning before, you have so much competition. And by the way, like, it's actually, I think more boutique hotel operators or like maybe not boutique, but like lifestyle. I think that's like the correct word. I think they should embrace that word more because you're actually setting up your guests for the right expectations. I'm not going to stay at a lifestyle hotel that is, call it around 500 or let's say just under $1,000 ADR per night. And, when I go and I stay and it's a small room, the services are not there. It's not consistent. I don't have turn down service or not unpacking my luggage. I don't want to pay for something that is labeled luxury and not have those things. Because in my mind, when I'm staying at a luxury hotel, they better do everything for me. I want to be like no DIY. I don't want to do anything myself.
Nothing myself.
I want to be able to, exactly. Like, I want to be able to order, an egg white omelet at 2 a.m. and I don't want them to be like, sorry, miss, the kitchen is closed. No, then you're not a luxury hotel.
Right.
No request is impossible. If you're asking for luxury rates, then no request is impossible. So I think that differentiation, I hope that more people will realize, especially operators, that just because you say you're a luxury, it might be setting you up for failure because you're not going to meet those guest expectations. It's better to say that you're a lifestyle hotel with cool design and maybe like cool common spaces where you can like gather and socialize and like have drinks in like a cool bar. But, the word luxury in the truest sense for me has always been about, the ability to remove my need to make decisions.
That's brilliant. I asked that question and I'll ask it to you again at the end of the podcast because I normally have these questions I ask everyone, but I ask that question so much, what luxury is to you. I've never heard that response and I love it. To remove decisions is probably like the most, when people can decide things for you and it's a right decision.
Yes, exactly.
It's like,
yes, that's when you can truly relax.
Yes.
And like it's like a form of the thought of looking after someone and knowing what their needs are before they even ask.
Right.
I think that is luxury. So I'll just give you a really interesting example that I'm always thinking about this whenever I stay at hotels. So I stayed at Passalacqua, which is one of the most, or I think it's the most beautiful hotel in Lake Como. It's exactly my taste. It's very Italian, neoclassical, Liberty style architecture and interior design. It's beautiful, amazing food, baseline for those rates, right? It's $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a night. Something that really impressed me, a detail that really impressed me is that they have every single Dyson tool in the bathroom. The bathroom has everything that you could possibly imagine, except for obviously skincare because that's so personal to everyone's skin, right? But like, if I'm playing tennis all day and going to swim in the pool and just like doing my nature things, going for a hike, and I want to look nice before dinner, I don't have to worry about calling someone to come to my hotel to give me a blow dry, right? I already have every single tool. And I think like now, whenever I go to a luxury hotel, meaning like, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a night, I'm always looking for that now because I'm like, that is such a small detail that shows that they were thinking of me as a woman, right? I mean, in addition to having ample counter space and like beautiful bathroom amenities, like those are baseline. But when you go above and beyond and you're like, here's every single hair tool that makes your life easier.
100%.
That I think is like an essence of luxury.
And this is not a Dyson ad, but I am also a Dyson fan.
Yes.
It
simplifies your life.
Everyone always thinks I have a blowout.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. And even
Dyson.
for weddings, like I take my Dyson everywhere. And I also iron my clothes with Dyson.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's great. But that is a really good point. And I always also pay attention of Dyson, not only the hair air wrap and the blow dry and all that, but even like the hand dryers.
Yes.
Sometimes it's very rare to find hand dryer Dysons. I don't understand why. big hotels don't have that. Like the Ritz, for example,
Yeah.
doesn't have that here in Paris.
Yeah, they do the little hand towels, right?
Yeah, which is like great. But anyways,
Yeah.
I love that detail. And it is really all about the details, I think. And finding those little winks of beauty and little winks of care that really make you feel like, okay, I'm really being taken care of.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've really been thought of.
Yes.
Which is brilliant. You kind of touched on this before, but you also deep dive on it extensively. And it's this kind of sameness we're starting to find everywhere. And it's because of this Instagrammable kind of, behind the camera thing. And we see so many new hospitality things pop up, new experience places, new coffee shops that is also like a workout and wellness meeting third space and all this kind of stuff. And there's a little bit of I think every other week I'm like invited to like this new like members exclusive community, whatever. I'm like, okay. And there's a venue. And who knows about the communities that are going to be built. What do you see in all of this? How do you see this taste and this beauty that you keep talking about? This is something that you don't just like regurgitate out, right? And this is kind of happening in a copy paste. What do you see happening and how do you analyze this?
I have some
I like the smirks.
I have some honest thoughts that
Please give it to us.
Well, I'm by the way, so let me start this by saying that not everyone has taste, good or bad. And that's okay. Most people, the majority of people, want to be told what is cool, where to go, where to eat, where to stay. That's why there's this whole industry of media, of travel media, right? Where it's like, here's where you should stay. Here are the new openings. Like, so there's that. So the other side of that is the people making the decisions, right? So the people that are running the groups that, that have the resource to be able to open these places. A lot of those people who sit at the top, they're money people, and their first and foremost priority is to return capital to their shareholders. Right. There's nothing wrong with that. It's business. It's the business of experiences. That's what it is. A lot of them don't have their own personal taste because like they've never had to. They've been able to outsource taste by hiring the right architect, by hiring creative consultants, et cetera, et cetera. So their job, it's very siloed, right? A lot of the corporations that open these places. And by the way, again, like that is not a bad thing because on the flip side of that, as I mentioned earlier, people like to be told what to do. It's like humans are wired for certainty. And going back to what I was saying earlier, you and I have had the privilege of living all over the world, traveling all over the world, being friends with people from so many different cultures and backgrounds, and having access to, culture and design and art and beauty and like the impetus to seek those things and form your own opinions about them. Most people don't care. Like for example, I love Italian Renaissance art history. And for me, like that has influenced so much how I see hotels and design, and especially because I live in Milan and I travel a lot in Italy, and I see that through the lens of like, like perspective and harmony and like color theory. Like those are things that were very big in Renaissance art, right? But a lot of people don't care. They're like, as long as this looks good on camera, or as long as it photographs well, or as long as staying here implies that I am of a certain status, that's what they're driven by. And so the reason why we're seeing a lot of the sameness is because you have those factors where people are constantly being fed what they're supposed to like or where they're supposed to travel to. And then on the flip side, the people making the decisions, right, they're outsourcing that and they are always mitigating risks. That's the other thing that I think a lot of people maybe don't quite fully understand is that when you're in an investment committee, right, and you're presenting a new brand or a new concept or buying a new piece of real estate and you're going to put this hotel brand in there, you always have to present all the risks involved and how you're going to mitigate those risks. So from like a branding marketing perspective, or just like from the way that you're experiencing like the guest experience and the sameness and everything, that presents less risk because you know it's worked. That Soho House model, that furniture style, like that business, the membership structure, like we know that those work, like those things work, right? Like in not just Soho House, but just generally the structure of the hotels. Like the reason why you're seeing a lot of sameness is because they present less risk.
So they present it and it gets passed because you're mitigating that risk.
Exactly. And their goal is to scale, right? When you raise a lot of money from institutional investors, you have to scale. You have to grow.
Right.
And especially, on the flip side, if you're a public company, you have to report your earnings every 3 months because you have quarterly reporting. So those incentives, I think, create this perfect storm of the sameness. And, on the flip side of that, the groups that do have taste, I think a lot of it has to do with the way that their capital is structured. So I'll give you a really good example of one group that I think is just doing such a fantastic job. And that's a French group called Les Orels. A lot of people don't know Les Orels. Like Americans don't know the name. A lot of Americans don't. But I think if you are someone that seeks that type of, heritage and like true craftsmanship, not like the marketing, like big group definition of craftsmanship, but true storytelling and emotional resonance and quite frankly, ultra luxury, because their hotels are very, very pricey and they're priced at the top. But they have a family office structure, meaning that they have patient capital. They are not under pressure to return an investment in 3 to 5/7 years. They have a very different structure. And, on the flip side, going back to Passalacqua is owned by the DeSantis family that has done hotels in Lake Como for over 50 years. And they don't raise any outside capital. They are, they self-fund everything. And so they operate with the family office mindset. So when you have patient capital, you have the ability and the flexibility to do things that these groups that have to return capital cannot. Right. Whether that's, for example, with Passalacqua, they had everything is either custom made or sourced at an antique fair. What major luxury conglomerate is going to take the time to do that, to travel all around Italy and, source Murano glass chandeliers for every room, right? Or like hire this, a very unknown random artisan to create these like beautiful trunks that hide the TVs.
Right.
So it's a very different perspective. And just as another fun example, Les Orels has their own gifting team that designs patterns and gifts for every single hotel.
Okay.
So that kind of generosity and that kind of attention to detail is not congruent with scale per se.
Right.
And so I think when you think about taste and sameness, it's, by the way, like, again, I really want to emphasize this. Sameness and not having your own taste is not a bad thing. It's just the way that humans are wired. But then obviously, like, now you can really see the contrast. That's why we're talking about this now, is because you're like, wait, whoa, you as a person who has your own taste, you see the sameness and you think like, wow, like that seems so uninformed, or that seems very copy and paste, because you have your own, you've taken time to develop your own sense of taste.
So interesting. And I think that what is so brilliant about every time your perspective on things is that you have such a strong from your private equity background, you have such a strong business perspective as well. And to really mirror that and to look at how basically the finances are structured behind these big groups and smaller groups are really key. That makes so much sense when you don't have this urgency to scale. You treat things differently. And I think you also see this, for example, with Hermes, right? Or with Chanel. When brands are privately owned, they have another kind of
mandate,
freedom,
yes.
I guess, to be either patient or not have to have these reportings and have to be telling people even what they're doing with what they have. And this is super, super interesting to think of when we're looking at, and as you say, it's not a bad or good thing. It's just there is demand for luxury hospitality or lifestyle hospitality. I really like how you coined that. And if there is demand and there's these big groups and they need to scale, then they need to do it in some sort of way. And this taste making, either you outsource it or you create it yourself. And that is really maybe the big dissonance between lifestyle hospitality and luxury or ultra luxury hospitality, which you really described perfectly. I also want to kind of ask you how you look at taste. How do you analyze whether a space, and I think we can like do taste culture and really culture creation, because luxury has a very clear mandate to create culture. And that is always something that is very interesting to me. People that are not in the luxury industry tend to not know. But luxury cannot piggyback off of the culture that exists. Luxury needs to keep creating. And this is one of the many mandates of this industry, like the mandate to let people dream, to have an escapism, to be able to live in that beauty and that aesthetic kind of awe of it all. But how do you really see if something has taste, if something is creating culture? For you, what are those metrics, even personally, when you're going into a space?
I'll answer that in two parts. So the first part is when I walk into a space or when I visit a hotel or a restaurant or whatever. So I'm really influenced by an Italian interior designer and architect named Renzo Mongiardino. He's no longer alive, but his work has deeply impacted me. So he has, his style is not for everyone. It's very Italian in the sense that, it feels very 18th century Italian, very ornate, a lot of damask, wall coverings with fabric, velvet, like rich jewel tones, a lot of wood paneling. But beyond the visual impact of his work, one thing that he really, I should say, what's the right word? One thing that underlines his work is the concept of harmony. And I think this is something that a lot of people don't necessarily consider, because again, a lot of designers these days are designing for social media impact, and that's fine. But harmony is, I think, what makes design timeless and everlasting, and obviously beautiful, of course. But I think going back to like what I think is really good taste, I think it's obviously, it has to have an element of timelessness. And so like harmony meaning proportions, color theory, color matching pattern, and then the way that the space is designed for flow. So I really look at these things like I almost wish I didn't, because now I notice such small details that are off. Like, when the cabinets aren't fully flush, I'm like, someone needs to call, or when like a door opens towards you, I'm like, no, that's not that. You have to, it should open like against you. Right. Away from you. And the way that, for example, bathrooms were designed, like why, like when things are not, either symmetrical, or when the lighting is off, when it's like overhead, a recessed lighting, and so it creates a lot of shadow on your face, like that. These things don't create harmony in the mind, and they're very subconscious details, and most people don't notice it, but they will be like, something was off about that place. Why? Because there was no harmony in mind. So I think taste is actually less about the visual stuff, because like my visual taste is not for everyone. I love Baroque period. I love obviously, as I mentioned, the Renaissance period. I love Rococo. I love very opulent and like very grand and historical and very theatrical design. And that's not for everyone. But I think underlying that, I can also appreciate like the more contemporary modern design, but as long as it's been designed with harmony in mind.
Right.
And the other component of that I also like now, after having lived in Italy for a while, I'm a stickler for materials, and I hate more than anything when you stay at a quote unquote luxury hotel and the materials are so cheap. And I can tell because I also like I decorated my home with mostly custom or antique furniture, and so like I've become like such a stickler with quality and material, and just looking at the like the way that things have been stitched. Like, for example, if the wall covering is lined with like a ribbon and like against a molding, and the ribbon is cheap and it's clearly like not it wasn't sewn on properly, and it like details like that, like most people don't care about, but like I really do, and I think they make a very big long-term difference. In terms of culture, luxury is it's always been a status symbol. It's always been aspirational, and there's always going to be an element of that. I think now going forward with the amount of wealth that is being transferred and just the way that this younger us, our generation and younger, the way that we choose to prioritize spending, a lot of it is on convenience. A lot of it is on experience and quality and things like that. Like we know how to look for those things, and we know how to prioritize those things. I think luxury going forward, building on what I was saying about the need to the ability to remove decision making, I think it'll be more about saving time and optimization and efficiency, especially with AI coming. So the ability to, for example, save time by sharing a plane with someone to go to Milan for a week, or going to Milan for lunch and then coming back the same day. It's just like things like that. I think it'll be less about the more overt status symbols that have defined luxury culture for so long. There'll always be an element of that, of course, but I think it's going to shift to like being more optimized, whether it's your time or your health. That's also a big theme, like having, looking your best. And, it's kind of like more of the less spoken or less obvious symbols that I think will define luxury culture in the next cycle.
100%. I do think that taste has become a status symbol, and having taste, right? And knowing where to go, knowing where to, and now it's like you look at all these, and there has to be, as you say, there has to be every kind of group. And it's okay for people to look at those people that do have taste, to follow what they're doing and appreciate and be able to kind of live off of that. But today, I think you see so many, especially in Paris, you're walking around and there's like queues, lines that are huge. And it's people that have taste, those like early adopters of things, will never wait in the queue. Right? Yeah. Like ever. Because either they've already been there or that's not by default. If there's a queue behind it, that is out of the taste realm.
Yeah, like it doesn't signify to us that it's going to be good just because there's a queue.
100%. Yeah. And I do think that there's this like status symboling in that, and status symboling in what we choose to spend our money on and what we're actually wanting to experience and live or invest in. And there's a lot of this like mentality of investing in things. And it's not only investing in items, it's investing in experiences that then you can bring with you forever. Right. So all of this is such a interesting, I think, concept, especially looking at human behavior and how it's really shifting today with everything that's going on. I think also, and after COVID, there was a big shift also in this like wanting to experience more. Health is more important, and there is also this symbol status of like health in general, of like I'm an aura ring wearer, but I feel like whenever another person has an Oura ring, they're like, oh, you have an Oura ring?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. Which is like, I'm still debating whether I'm still getting new information that is interesting to me at the moment. But there is this like signaling of, this like high rocks groups of people doing like all these like very intense, or like the Strava people that are really like going into that. So it's very interesting how status is also moving into longevity and wellness and all this kind of space. I want to kind of jump onto the topic of members clubs because there's been so many coming out, and you also touch a lot on this. What is to you the difference between a members club that works with a community that works versus a members club that is a nice venue that can, yes, host people, but not necessarily will get that traction or hype with, rather get that not get the traction, but the hype to create these communities?
The members clubs that are doing really well, and by doing well, I mean, they have a wait list, or there's some sort of signifier of demand, they're very profitable. I think they nail first and foremost the food and beverage. You cannot have a long-term successful club without good food and beverage. Just full stop. It has to be, maybe it's not the best food you've ever had, but it's consistent, it's reliable. Because after all, you are primarily going there to eat and drink.
Right.
And this is, by the way, I'm referring to like the traditional members club, social club, right? Like wellness is a whole other ballgame. But without good food and service, you don't really have a foundation for a club that people pay a fee every year to basically go do exactly that. One members club that I think is just phenomenal, and I'm biased because I'm also a member, is Casa Cipriani. They are really good in the sense that they really pay a lot of attention to quality and materials, and they reinvest a lot into maintaining their spaces. So it never, if you go to the New York one, it opens, just after COVID, and when you go, it still looks new. Yeah, it still looks beautiful. You've lacquered wood furniture. I mean, I know how much lacquered wood furniture costs because I went through the whole process of decorating my house. They use quality linens, like everything. Everything is beautiful. It's harmonious and it's elegant and it's timeless and it's very Cipriani. It's very on brand for them. It's the same with the food and the service. They have, a lot of Italian wait staff, and, they do all the classics. You know exactly what you're going to get. For me, like when I think of what a successful members club is, just as like an anecdote, I can take a business meeting at Casa Cipriani and feel more comfortable because I feel like it's my turf. The maitre d' knows me, they smile, they greet me by name. I recognize a lot of familiar faces with the wait staff, and that makes me feel comfortable. Right. If I have exactly. If I have a high stakes meeting, or if I'm taking a meeting that I know will be kind of stressful, I always invite people to come to Casa Cipriani, and obviously no one's going to say no to coming there. Right. So it works out both ways. But I think, when I think about what's worth paying for every year, I'm looking for those things personally. Like as someone who uses it for social/business use, that's what I'm looking for. Members clubs, the ones that have not performed, or I don't want to say not performed well, but maybe aren't as timeless, or maybe aren't going to have as loyal of a following or as loyal of a member base, are ones that maybe are trendy and want to capture the zeitgeist. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't want to say that I'm a critic, but I want to be honest of right. Like, why do some things last longer than others? Like, why are some places institutions and some aren't? And it's that exact fundamental reason. It's the food and beverage, the quality of the food and beverage and service. And is it something that has a point of view? And is it something that stays true to that point of view?
Through time.
Right. Yeah. Through trends. It's so easy. Like if I were operating a members club, and my focus is food and beverage and, great entertainment, And now, okay, wellness is a thing. So, I might be tempted to try to pivot to be a wellness club, but actually staying true to your roots, even though you're like, should I evolve? Should I pivot? Should I be fully a wellness place?
Right.
Yeah. It's like, no, you should stick to what you're really good at and be consistent.
And people, I think, like niche things.
Yes.
And I've noticed that by living now in Europe for quite a while now. But, when you go to the US, you go to the supermarket and you have everything you want in one place. And you feel so lucky about it for a second, about having everything in one place. And then when you come here, and I've been living in Paris for the past 3 years now, but before that was in London. It's not that similar, but in Spain it is. And I was in Madrid before that. You have to get good quality things. You don't have it in one place. Right. You have to go to the butcher, to the boulanger, to the cheese place, to your fish place, to your vegetables guy. And they know you by your name. They know what you want. They know what you get every day. They might even give you a surprise. They're like, oh, I know you always take this, but I have this thing that is so good that you might like. Or what are you up to? Oh, well, I have some friends over. Well, this will be amazing, right? So there's like this component of luxury to me in going to these like very small places with this very big taste. And then there is this kind of like, now I want that. Now I crave that. And it's because there's this like magic to when things are niche enough. So what you're talking about, like maybe not bringing it, if you were not a wellness space or longevity space, then maybe that is why people like you, and you shouldn't go into it, because maybe they also are going somewhere else for their niche longevity, niche wellness, and are doing that kind of moves forward to kind of check that off of their list.
The reason why people love these niche things is because you get the best quality at all of these places. As you mentioned, I'm the same as you. I have my butcher. He knows that every year I order an 8-kilo turkey for Thanksgiving. He has it waiting. He knows. And it's going to be the best turkey, like better than what you could ever get in America. It's going to be the most like delicious, like fatty, like the most amazing turkey. It's the same when you go to your cheesemonger, your florist, the vegetable shop. It's like all these places, it's because they have the best. And this actually translates really well to generally hospitality, where be the best at what you are really good at. Be exceptional. If you're everything for everyone, you are nothing to everyone.
100%.
And like that, I think is like the key lesson that is so hard for people. It's a risk too, because like, oh, like everyone's doing wellness. Like, should I be wellness too? Right? Because you're reading all these reports, like everyone's spending on wellness hospitalities, but it's hard to be the best if you're trying to do everything. And so I think, going back to again, like have a point of view.
And stay true to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Love that. I'm going to go through some questions that I normally ask all my guests, and you can kind of spitfire through them. The first one is the meaning of luxury. I know you responded it, but I wanted to say it again. What does luxury mean to you?
Luxury means unique beauty, elegance, timelessness, harmony, and nervous system regulation.
So by default, nervous system regulation is creating less decisions for yourself and just being so at peace with your surroundings and your beauty and harmony that you see around you.
The ability to delegate and take things off your plate.
That's not necessary. We make too many decisions in our life to have to do them again when you're in a space where the value is that high. Great. And looking at 2030, where do you see this space going? It's in about 6 years. Where do you see the 4 years? Yeah. It's in 4 years. Where do you see the industry going of luxury hospitality? What do you have like in mind?
I'm going to say something that might make people feel uncomfortable, but I think AI displacing so many white collar jobs is going to have a huge impact in the lifestyle segment, first and foremost. And also in the luxury sector, two ways. So obviously people traveling to the $1,000 and under ADR hotels, like they're probably going to be traveling less. It's just by default of unemployment. I think those hotels are going to have to figure out a way to also, as like a cause and effect, replace a lot of their functions with AI, because a lot of it can be automated. Like if I'm paying $500 a night, I don't mind checking in through a screen, because that's the level of service I'm going to expect, right?
Right.
On the flip side of that, in the actual luxury, or I should say ultra luxury segments, like the 2, 3, 4, 5,000 ADR a night hotels, I think they're going to have to figure out a way to have their staff be augmented by AI and understand how to balance hyper personalization without having to ask, and privacy, and like knowing when to step away. And then also like just in general, the EQ that's required to execute that in like a flawless way. So I think it'll be the next 4 years will be very interesting. I also think that ultra luxury segment, for for the very rare handful of operators that actually can do that, I think they're going to be positioned to win in the greater set in the long term. Because also think about the type of person who's traveling to those places. They're not paying with credit card points. They're paying with a wire from one of their holding companies and like the Cayman Islands. Like they don't see $2,000 a night as expensive. They're like, whatever.
It's on the company.
Yeah. Or yeah, it's like, it's
the cost of doing business.
It's the cost of, it's just like the cost of their life. Like they already have staff, they travel private. Like they have a very different threshold. So that probably they're the ones that are going to get richer with everything happening in AI. So it'll be an interesting dichotomy. And I think with that, more people will start to realize that lifestyle hospitality is not luxury and luxury hospitality is not lifestyle.
Super interesting.
Yeah.
So there'll be a bigger divide there. What is one misconception that you see happen or that you hear in the luxury hospitality space?
Maybe it's not a misconception, but I think a perception that will be very quickly dismantled. And I think it's that you cannot get away with charging prices that are not aligned with the value that you bring. And this is very big, obviously. So going back to what I was saying about the why now, all the economic / cultural tailwinds that pushed hospitality to this spotlight of people wanting to pay, or willing to pay these prices, right? But a lot of operators have taken that as an excuse to charge these insane rates that don't align with the value that they bring. And I just think that they won't be able to get away with that for so long, because again, there's so much competition entering the market. There's so many new openings. There's so many players that see the dollar signs and they're like, how do I get a piece of that? So it is not enough to have just only good design and good food. You have to be, with AI, especially at that segment, you have no excuse to not be flawless. Sorry to put the pressure on people, but
no, 100%. And I think that's also the what you sign up for when you're signing up to luxury. That's what you need to deliver. And it's happening also in luxury goods. It's like quality versus price. There's all these prices that have gone up so much. And people are starting, ultra high net worth individuals are starting to decide not to buy anymore. Right. Not because they can't afford it, just because they don't see
one wants
that
to feel
match.
ripped off.
100%. Yeah. No matter how much money you have.
Exactly.
3 words that describe the industry.
Competitive. Not one word, but going through very deep structural change. And optimistic.
Love that. And finally, if someone wants to enter the hospitality space today, what is one skill or trait that you think 100% they must have?
Be a good storyteller. Be good at selling. If you look at the people just in any industry, any consumer, you have to always get people to buy in on you, whether that's investors or like, a hotel management company, or just like everyone, like, your staff, like you have to be able to lead, and you have to be a good storyteller. You have to be able to sell and do it without making people feel sold to. I think the most talented people in the industry that I have personally come across are exceptional at this. And more that, you can learn all the other stuff. Really, like you can learn how to put together a financial model. Now AI can do that. You can learn like how to build a building, or like renovate. There's processes for, is what I'm trying to say. But being a good storyteller, I think it's such a skill that a lot of people surprisingly don't have, such that when people do have it, you are immediately wowed and impressed. You can't put your finger on it, but that's why they're so good at what they do. They know how to communicate, they know how to be a good storyteller, and they know how to sell.
I love that. That's such a soft skills,
Totally.
With all these technology, it's coming back to that human essence, which is storytelling is what has kept civilizations through history alive.
Totally.
Because of stories of how to cook, stories on where we come from, stories on, like everything is a story. And it's, I completely agree with you. Thank you so much, Nadine, for this beautiful conversation. I've learned so much myself, and I'm an avid reader of the Stanza. So
thank you.
Thank you so much. And for bringing those two, I think, very, very valuable sides. One, business, and two, the storytelling and beauty aesthetic side of it. Normally you get one or the other. And I think that is your knack of making that nexus between the two.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really enjoyed this conversation.
To everyone listening, if this is a conversation that gave you something to think about, please follow and subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or anywhere you listen to your podcasts. Your support means the world and allows us to keep doing what we do and bring these incredible guests on the podcast. And if you want to go deeper in a written analysis and insights on what's going on in the industry and its implications for the future, subscribe to our Substack, where we go week after week beyond the surface. A lot of you ask how to find us or how to work with us. Everything is in our Linktree in the show notes and our website on beyondluxury.group. If you're interested in strategic advisory, speaking engagements, or anything else, please don't hesitate to reach out. See you next time.